Kazakhstan is one of the most multinational countries which gathered representatives of more than 130 ethnicities and nations. Each ethnicity has unique traditions, inimitable holidays, interesting stories and amazing recipes. Recipes of kindness and peace, recipes of respect to your own roots and other people's culture, recipes for friendship.
Hello, you're watching Recipe for Friendship. My name is Alevtina Madyarova, and at the moment, our home, famous for its hospitality, welcomes guests from all over the world at the Expo 2017 in Astana. In today's program, we will visit the representatives of several bright and distinctive ethnic groups. We will plunge into the details of their culture and way of life, and at the same time, we will visit places where guests came from. Let's go and see traditional Vietnamese crafts. This entire hat with its materials is made with an absolutely natural products. The only thing that stands out are the strings that hold everything together. The smell is very natural. Even the gloss, which is applied at the end, contains oil of natural origin. We will learn a little more about the history of Turkey. We will plunge into the process of making world-famous Azerbaijani carpets. Traditionally, weaving of Azerbaijani carpet was a woman's prerogative. There are certainly male masters, but still, as you can see yourself, women make up the majority of those who work here. And of course, we will meet people who are ready to share the most interesting things about their countries and customs. There are a lot of Vietnamese on the territory of the former Soviet Union. Of course, they also live in Kazakhstan. Most of them are the ones who came here when they were students and decided to stay. And while living in a foreign country, they managed to maintain their own way of life, their own cuisine, their own customs. Today, we're in the Pavilion of Vietnam within the framework of the Expo, and here we can also be sure that despite all the technological sophistication, modernity of this country, the Vietnamese are very close to nature. Here at the Expo, the Vietnamese pavilion demonstrates to us first of all what developed over the centuries, the details of everyday life and ancient musical instruments. There is no need to talk about the strong ties between Vietnam and the former Soviet Union. These ties have been alive to this day. Therefore, one should not be surprised to hear a familiar melody with a characteristic national color. Don't you recognize it? What do travelers bring from Vietnam to this day? Of course, the traditional hats made of straw and light, hand-woven mats. Now let's see how traditional bamboo hats are made. Like this ones. National crafts in Vietnam have not lost relevance to this day. The people of this country are real craftsmen. They know how to take pride in the fact that they do not count laziness among the national character traits. Here they like to say that Vietnamese love to grow rice. And in neighboring Cambodia, people like to look at how it grows. In Burma, they prefer to hear about it rather than seeing it because the Burmese are so lazy, it's even hard for them to open their own eyes. Can I join you? Thank you. Of course, the Vietnamese who migrated in Soviet times to Kazakhstan and other countries of the former Union do not weave such hats at home. And this hat is not in fashion in our cities, but in their homeland, it's not easy to manage without it. The key is also the size of the hat. Its diameter is very big. That, if necessary, it can serve as an umbrella for the owner, under which he can be sheltered completely. It even covers the shoulders. Generally, judging by the traditional Vietnamese crafts of this people, they have tons of patience. Patience is manifested in the learning process. Of course, Guests like me rarely ask to teach them how to make Vietnamese craft, but it's worth remembering that it takes more time for me to make anything, and you can't avoid the flaws at the very beginning. This process has its own beauty. In general, when you see professionals at work, this is just mesmerizing. Something is wrong here. At first glance, you look at it and it looks easy, but you start making one yourself and you find out that it's not true. In the course of communication, you can even learn a few words in Vietnamese. Things in Vietnamese sounds, for example, like come in. Well, okay, come in. Come in. In our traditional Vietnamese artel, as you can see, there are only women working, different generations, but all such beauties. At Expo 2017, traditional household items and crafts are exhibited in the Vietnamese pavilion, perhaps because for this country, the energy of the future largely derives strength and inspiration from their heritage of the past. Naturalness, closeness to nature, multifunctionality, and wasteless production are excellent principles. This hat was made out of absolutely natural product. The only thing that stands out are strings that hold everything together. The smell is very natural. Even the gloss, which is applied at the end, contains oil of natural origin. No matter how different our cultures and languages are, there's still a lot in common. It's not easy for us to learn the language of the West, as it is in turn for them. It takes a lot of time and effort to learn Russian, but it's worth it. Tuan, for example, studied here in Soviet times. Then he lived in Moscow for several years, and to this day he keeps in touch with local friends and classmates, and he's the head of Russian language club back home. I believe in the very near future we will continue our acquaintance with the Vietnamese diaspora in Kazakhstan. We will visit our Vietnamese people and learn how to prepare dishes and have already gained deserved popularity among our gourmets. In the meantime, it's time to move on. How many representatives of the Kingdom of Thailand live in Kazakhstan? I think just a handful of people, which of course does not make the culture of this country less interesting for us. Here in the framework of the Expo, the Thais introduce their technologies, their developments in the field of energy conservation, and of course their traditional crafts. Speaking of the Thais in Kazakhstan, it is worth acknowledging that first of all, there are not many of them. And second of all, it's usually those who came to work. And if you really want to study the Thai culture thoroughly, you'll probably have to go to the country of Tom Yam, the numerous statues of Buddha, and Thai massage, of course. It's inseparable from the country. By the way, here at the Expo in the Thai Pavilion, you can easily get a small massage session as a prize. Continuing the theme of the East, we could not help but look into another Asian pavilion, the Japanese. An impressive fact, for the work of the World Exhibition in Astana, the Japanese delegation prepared a team of 40 women, promoters and consultants, each of whom speaks, in addition to the English language, both Kazakh and Russian. The Japanese pavilion at Expo 2017 is fully dedicated to Japanese technologies. What to say, virtual reality, computer games, super modern applications, all of that is part of the country's modern culture. As for the traditional way of the country of the rising sun, we have already managed to get acquainted with it thanks to the Japanese Cultural Center in Almaty. Together we celebrated the Feast of Tanabata, or the celebration of the stars. My favorite part in any program is the final fitting of the national dress. When it comes to Japanese kimono and festive, elegant, bright colors with a chic belt, I think so. No one could resist it. Aselia Ismailova, head of the administrative department in the Japanese Center. She has already become akin to Japanese culture and looks so similar to her Japanese colleagues that often when she's addressed in the language of the country of the rising sun, she does not hesitate and answer in Japanese. It would seem just a cotton cloth, but there is still some way to do it. Well, yes. When all this is supplemented with belts, bows, in the modern world, the Japanese women wear kimono. Yes, they are, but not in everyday life, mostly on holidays. For example, today we're celebrating the Tanabata. They're celebrating it now in Japan. When I visited, I was lucky enough to be there at the time of Tanabata celebration. And there you go into this park and everyone wears traditional clothes and it looks very nice. Cotton yukata kimono is a single-layer kimono, unlike a winter one when a woman wears 3 layers of heavy thick fabric. And this look is accompanied by Japanese traditional walk with small steps. Yes, but it's not that they do it on purpose, you just cannot make wide steps, the clothes themselves won't allow it. And how such a belt is called? This is obi. On the Japanese, obi belt. Yukata obi, what other details? Himo obi. Yes, a thin string if translated literally. So it's ready. Well, trying on this outfit, it seems to me that I should learn some proper phrases in Japanese. Minasan konnichiwa. It is one of the traditional procedures which should not be neglected on the day of Tanabata. These are special cards with wishes, called tanzaka. Yukata obi, himo obi, tanabata, tanzaka. And you know, it's not so hard to remember what all these words mean. Tanabata is a holiday that we're celebrating today, a celebration of the stars. Tanzaka is a card with a wish to the whole world. It can be something general. Let us all have less tears, more joy, strength, and love. And light. Meanwhile, we're moving further to make sure we have time to visit other pavilions of the World Expo. The next station is Azerbaijan. We can talk endlessly about Azerbaijani culture, but among the facts that on the surface, this is primarily a unique cuisine and amazing carpets. Where else can you see carpets like Azerbaijani? Art born many centuries ago and preserved to the present day is rightfully included in the UNESCO World Heritage List, and it's quite understandable why. Earlier, we already immersed ourselves into the culture of Azerbaijanis living in Almaty, and I had a chance to get acquainted with the production of carpet, causing, as they say, a return visit. Traditionally, weaving of Azerbaijani carpet was a woman's prerogative. There are certainly male masters, but still, as you can see yourself, women make up the majority of those who work here. For example, the hospitality of Azerbaijanis is legendary, and it's worth noting it is pure truth. So here, I did not even have to ask for a masterclass. It all happened by itself. Soraya is one of the oldest masters in this gallery. She has been making carpets for over 20 years. The mother taught her in her youth, but now Soraya herself passes her experience to young carpet weavers. She offered to teach me and promised that it won't take a lot of time to learn. At first, it seemed, of course, that I could not master the science in any way. Either threads got confused or the hook did not obey. It's very complicated. In addition, I'm afraid to spoil such beauty. On such a carpet, for example, the artel working together spends about 6 to 8 months. In this case, the technology is consistent with classical standards. Let's take, for example, dyes. Here, for example, the bark of a green walnut. It gives brown shades. If you hold the carpet in it longer, it turns black. Black color in the local tradition is used very rarely. Here, please, the bark of the oak tree. It will give us a green shade. With indigo, everything is clear. For pink and red colors, onion husks are used. And a bunch of other substances that give a variety of colors and shades, but the main thing at the end is to fix everything with a sea salt. In the old days, when women had to work on the carpet alone, it often became a matter of life. And now, inquisitive seekers go to the villages and search for such treasures. Old women sometimes reluctantly go to contact, but as soon as the ice breaks, grandmother will get her treasured carpet and will show it to people. Drawings are also chosen more often than classical ones. The artist manually transfers the ornament to the millimeter paper and the weaver performs it exactly according to the sketch. And on the pattern on the carpet, the experienced eye will easily distinguish the region the carpet belongs to. Camels and birds are the Karabakh style. Circular and symmetrical floral patterns are very traditional for Iranian carpets. And this, you won't believe it, Kazakh. There is a district in Azerbaijan called the Kazakh. There is even an assumption that the local residents are relatives of Kazakhs. The closest neighbor of Azerbaijan is Turkey, the country which is beloved, revered by Kazakhstan, and very close to us. Turkey and Kazakhstan are similar in many respects. We have common roots, similar traditions, we're mutually integrated so that it's very difficult to overestimate our connection. Here at Expo 2017 in the Turkish Pavilion, we get acquainted with Turkish high technologies. In order to learn more about high technology successfully implemented by scientists, environmentalists and developers in Turkey, you probably should visit the Turkish Pavilion at Expo 2017. As for the traditions and sacred customs kept and observed for centuries, the program Recipe for Friendship is always ready to talk about it. Thanks to the program, now we know that the so-called Caucasian Turks are widely represented in our country. They are often called Meskhetian Turks. The wedding ceremony and dances which we encountered during the filming became one of the most vivid impressions. History of Turkey, where there are many Kazakhstanis, by the way, you can see in a kind of dance show, known throughout the world as the Lights of Anatolia. The ballet troupe of 120 people by full ride holds 2 Guinness records. Well, it can tell a lot about Turkey and the Turks. The history of the region, the peoples who inhabited in different periods of history, rulers and armies fighting for power in this fertile land, all this is presented in the form of a ballet, where several dozens of artists are simultaneously dance on the one stage, a sight worthy of admiration. Well, let's come back to Expo 2017, because there's so much to see and so many people to meet. The most interesting and pleasant thing is to learn about the history, culture, and development of countries, both close to us in spirit and geographically, and the ones that seem to many as undiscovered exotics. There are new recipes for friendship and new programs ahead. New meetings, new acquaintances, and new cultural discoveries. This was Recipe for Friendship. My name is Alevtina Madyarova. See you soon on Kazakh TV.